Grab some tea, grab a snack, because I feel like today's video is going to be quite long. I asked you guys 4 financial questions on Instagram and the results were absolutely shocking. I got inspired to ask these questions because first off, I find it interesting that we live in a society where talking about our financial status and our income and our salary and our net worth is super taboo, but then people are just ready to talk about their sexuality and who they've slept with and all sorts of other things that I personally think should be kept private. I just find it so weird that people talk about their mental illnesses and they're vulnerable with so many things, their weight, their height, but then when it comes to sharing things about finances, people are so opposed to that. And so I kind of want to break that taboo, and I want to talk to you guys more about wealth, about salary, about income, about just all of these things, because when we're able to talk to each other about financial things, that's when we're able to grow and learn and really up level. So that is my goal with this video. So the entire reason that I created this poll on Instagram, which by the way, if you are not following me, make sure to follow me. It's at Rulla Alani. Was because I was doing some research, which I always do, on like net worth and what should my net worth be at this age and average net worth and blah blah blah. And am I the only one who does that, by the way? Let me know in the comments if you are also like type A when it comes to your finances and to how you compare to your peers in your age group, because that is me. Like, I'm always trying to be above average. I want to be the top 10%, the top 5%. Like, I don't know what it is, but it might be this Leo nature that's competitive, but I've always wanted to be in good financial standing and to be in a place where I am ahead and I'm ahead of the game. I filmed another video talking about how to build your dream life and get ahead while you're young, so definitely make sure to check that out. I'll link it up above. But back to this video. So the reason why I ran the financial poll to begin with was because I had found this forum online where people were asking questions and sharing comments, and this gentleman wrote, I am in my mid-50s, net worth of around $4 million, with no debt, no mortgage, car debt, etc., no defined benefit pension either. So as extreme as this may sound, I don't feel all that well off. I concede I don't have anxieties about making ends meet or being homeless. I don't feel that well off. I save and invest, and I'm a conceptual follower of Dave Ramsey without the religious stuff. He motivated me to get my mortgage done in 10 years, an $800K home. So when I read this, I was just all over the place. I needed to know what other people thought, because I personally thought that this man was indeed well off. I mean, he's in his mid-50s. He has literally no big payments. His home is paid off, his car is paid off, and he legit thinks he's not well off. I'm like, what kind of world do we live in that people think they have $4 million sitting around and they don't feel well off? I really do think that it's misinformation, because having $4 million in your mid-50s is amazing. So I had asked people on my Instagram what they thought about this, and I received one response which said, greedy and ungrateful, also oblivious to the fact that there are people less fortunate. So I don't necessarily agree that this man is just greedy and ungrateful. I truly think he's misinformed, because if he's in his mid-50s, he could actually live off that $4 million. Let's see what the average lifespan is of a man. The average lifespan of a man in the US is 77. If he's in his mid-50s, let's assume he's 55. Okay, he has 22 years left of life on average, right? That's all you can do is calculate averages. If you divide 4 million out by 22 years, Let me show you guys. He could literally live, ooh, I like this number, by the way. I love this pattern. He could live off of $181,818 every year. He has no car payment. He has no house payment. You could live extremely well off of $180,000. That's literally just for play. That's like vacations, gas, going out, dinners, groceries, buying things. You can literally live so good off of $180,000 salary, especially considering you don't have big bills to pay. So if I knew this man, or if this man was my friend or my father, I would sit him down and let him know, buddy, you are well off. You could live off 6 figures for the next 22 years of your life and not have a worry in the world. You know, like, it really boggles my mind that people think that they need $1 billion to be well off. You can actually feel well off with 6 figures if you know how to use it and how to grow it and how to invest it, okay? So this now brings me to the poll. That whole thing that I just showed you guys is what inspired this poll, because I wanted to know, where are other people's mindsets when it comes to wealth, when it comes to truly feeling well off? Because one thing that I've noticed is you can have a bank account full of zeros, like as in millions of dollars, and you can feel broke. And you can also have barely anything to your name and feel super rich. So it really is just a mindset. I know that I've said this in another video where I said, like, being broke is just a mindset. It's not really a physical reality. And so many people were coming after me in the comments saying, like, this is our reality, blah, blah, blah. You don't get it though. If you tune into that frequency of being grateful, of realizing what you can afford, you can truly live like you're wealthy within your means, okay? So with all that being said, let me get to the poll. I want to share what the results are, and I'm also going to tell you guys what my responses are to these questions. Okay. So first question was, do you make financial decisions based on A, your salary / income, or B, your net worth? Okay, so for the response, I got 54% of people saying their salary income and 46% saying their net worth. So this was about a 50-50 split. And this is what I'll say about it. If you're not saving much and you're not investing much, then I'm going to assume that most of your financial decisions are going to be based on your salary, right? There isn't much left over. So obviously, what are you going to be basing it on? You're going to be basing it on your income. The only problem here is that salaries and incomes change. Salaries and incomes are not guaranteed. You could lose your job tomorrow, God forbid. You could get promoted tomorrow. So it's super variable. So I personally don't like making financial decisions based on my salary income. I personally like making financial decisions based on my net worth. And that is because as an entrepreneur, my income fluctuates a lot. It fluctuates monthly, it fluctuates seasonally, it fluctuates yearly. So if I'm going to make decisions based on that, it's not really a foolproof method of really ensuring that I'm being consistent. So I prefer basing it on my net worth because that is a more holistic view of where I am financially. And so when I talk about net worth, I also want to be super clear. I'm talking about my liquid assets. So my net worth does not include my car. It does not include jewelry like gold. It doesn't include my wedding ring. It doesn't include things of that nature. It includes cash in the bank, stocks, cryptocurrency, things of that nature. Okay, so things that I could easily sell within like a split second, right? I could easily sell my stocks and get the cash. I could easily pull out my money, withdraw, and have that sitting here. I could easily sell or trade my cryptocurrency for money. So that is the only thing I'm basing my net worth on. I know that some people like will add their jewelry, their handbags, you know, maybe even precious art or fine art. But I personally don't, just because those things they're not as easy to sell. You don't have immediate access to your funds with your car, right? You need to go through the process of selling it. And actually a car is a liability, which is a whole nother thing. But I just like to be conservative in my calculations, so I don't include my car, my jewelry, my handbags, nothing like that. I'm literally only including assets, okay? So I personally would answer for that question my net worth. But like I said, if you're younger, if you're just working as a cashier, you don't really have much assets, then you're probably best off making decisions off your income because you don't really have any other funds besides your income. There really isn't a right or wrong answer for this one. It just really depends on what your current situation is. The next question was, how often do you calculate your net worth? So this means actually going into your accounts, adding everything up, and seeing where you stand. So 9% said daily or weekly, 18% said monthly, 9% said quarterly, and 64% said annually. Once again, there isn't a right or wrong answer here. I personally think calculating your net worth daily is like insane. That's a little bit too often, right? I personally would say I calculate my net worth monthly, just because obviously a lot of my funds are fluctuating because they're in stocks and cryptocurrency. So I like having a pretty up-to-date account of where I am. And then of course I will do an end of the year kind of review of where I am, and I have my end of year totals that I will write down. So basically I'm tracking it monthly, but I'm really only writing it down and tracking it in that way at the end of the year. Okay, so once again, if you have funds that are very variable, then I would suggest tracking it more often just to know where you're at. Because let's say that, you know, you think you're worth 10,000, but you haven't checked your investment account and actually your stocks just fell down really bad and you're actually worth 5,000. Like, that's going to make a big difference in how you're going to move and what you're going to purchase and what you think you can afford. So if you have more variable assets, then I would encourage you to track it more often. But if you have mainly just cash, then I would say yearly is just fine. Okay. The next question was really interesting because now we're getting into, how do you view yourself? Okay, so I said, how do you perceive your financial status? And there were 4 different categories. So the first one was below average, and 30% of people said they view themselves below average. 50%, so almost half, said they viewed themselves as average, and then 20% viewed themselves above average. Now the part that was really interesting was 0% of the people viewed themselves as rich or wealthy. So the thing that worried me about so many people viewing themselves as average or below average was that I think that people have a super microscopic view of wealth. They're comparing themselves to celebrities, to social media influencers, to these movie stars, and they're not really looking at it from a global view. Globally, like, the average person is living on less than $1 a day. So I would assume that most people answering my polls are in a better position than that. They're above average naturally just by living in the United States, just by having clean water, you know, consistent food, a roof over their heads. So it really does kind of disappoint me that people view themselves in such a low light. despite living in a first world country, despite having so many opportunities and access to so many resources, like as someone who has traveled all around the world, you really don't realize how blessed you are until you go to a third world country. Like, I went to India, and seeing the poverty there just completely shifts your mind. Like, people are receiving $1 a day. $1 a day for working if they're making minimum wage, okay? People here are making $15, $20 an hour minimum. And yes, you can tell me that the cost of living is higher here, but even our homeless population has it better off than if they're living in a third world country. We have shelters, we have access to just so many resources for individuals who are struggling. We have disability payments, we have unemployment payments. Like, we really are blessed in the United States, and I really want to highlight that in this video, because you don't need to be a millionaire to feel that you are above average. You don't need to be comparing yourself to the Kardashians or to this far-fetched illusion of what being above average means. If you even have a few dollars saved up in your bank account, you are above average. If you are healthy and you have all your limbs and clean water, you are above average. Personally speaking, I understand that maybe people were kind of using the poll in a way to compare themselves to other individuals in the United States. I assume that's what was going on here, is perhaps people looked up their income in comparison to the average and they saw that it was below. But I just encourage you guys to have a more global view, to think about things more macroscopically, and to understand that we truly are blessed. We really are. Like, even when I was growing up and we were living off of food stamps, we were incredibly blessed. Like, I had both parents, both were healthy, I got time with both, you know, we had a home. So all of these things count, and I just don't want to discount that. Like, obviously, looking at my life now, I know I'm better off than I was before, but that doesn't mean that I was below average before. Okay, the fact that I was able to go to college and drive a car and have things that some people perceive as just, oh, that's basics, that is above average. Okay, so that's just my little tidbit for that. I personally, I don't want to sound in any way like outrageous, but I personally would answer this question as rich or wealthy. I do consider myself to be quite wealthy. The fact that I have a healthy marriage, I have food, I have water, I'm able to travel, I have a savings, I have investments, like, that to me is wealth. Like, I might not have 10 million in the bank account, but I consider myself as wealthy, and I am super grateful for everything that I have. I always have been, and I've noticed that those who are grateful, those who are more thankful, end up better off. So you might as well just be grateful for what you have. Perhaps you are not there yet. Perhaps you do not view yourself as rich or wealthy. That is completely fine. But I just want to be completely honest with you guys in my truth. And personally, for me, I consider myself to be rich/wealthy. Am I rich/wealthy by the American standards or by California standards? Probably not, right? Like, I don't live in a mansion. I don't live by the beach. I don't own a Lamborghini. However, to me, that is not what defines being rich or wealthy. The fact that I have the necessities and some luxuries, to me, is wealth. And so that is the definition that I go by, and that is how I consider myself. The last question is, what net worth would make you feel wealthy? 8% said 100,000. 15% said 250,000 to 750,000. 15% said 1 million or more, and 62% said 10 million or more. Okay, so let's talk about this. I personally think that if you have $100,000 sitting around, right? Like, I'm not saying you have $100,000 and you need to spend that on bills and this and that, but if you literally have $100,000 set aside and you still have your income rolling in and you still have, you know, different things that you own, you are wealthy. I will just tell you from my personal experience, when I hit a net worth of $100,000, that was pivotal for me. That was a huge milestone in my life. Like, I still remember I took my entire family out, we celebrated, we had dinner, like literally my mom and sister thought I was pregnant or something because I was like, we have something to celebrate, and they're like, are you pregnant? Like, did you get married? Did you buy a house? So I fully and wholeheartedly celebrated that milestone, because talk to any person who is well off and they will tell you that the first 100,000 is the hardest. Once you've hit 100,000, it really is just a matter of scale, right? Because if you're able to turn 1,000 into 100,000, you know you can 100x your net worth. So literally, to get to $1 million, all you need to do is 10x 100,000. And now you have a lot more resources, because 100,000 can buy you access to mentorship, education, coaching, you know, all of these things that can help you level up at a really quick rate. So having 100,000, I will tell you guys, to me, is considered wealthy, because at that point you could literally buy a car cash. You could basically put a down payment on a home depending on where you live. You could, like, you can do a lot with that, and you can start living abundantly. When I got to a net worth of 100,000, I started donating. Up until that point, I would donate here and there, like $5, $10, $20, but I was able to donate on a whole nother level and have an impact and actually support causes, not just with my voice, but with money. And so I truly think that at 100,000, I felt wealthy. Like, that really to me was the moment when I did start to feel wealthy. I also want to say that doesn't mean that I don't desire $1 million or 10 million or 100 million. Perhaps, yeah, I do desire that, but I already feel wealthy right now. I already started feeling wealthy at 100,000, and I think you should too. Like, if you have hit a net worth of 100,000, that is a huge feat. Most people don't even get to that. So that already is wealth. Anything above is a blessing, is extra, is like the cherry on top. But you can really move mountains with $100,000, and I will literally gladly argue anyone who says otherwise, because once you've hit 100,000, it's literally just a matter of scale. All you need to do is 10x to make $1 million. All you need to do is 100x to make 10 million. So you've really already mastered the foundation of saving, of investing, of business, or whatever it is that you're doing. If you've hit a net worth of 100,000, you've already laid down the foundation. Like, think of it as you're building a home and you've laid down the bricks. So now it's really just a matter of scaling and expanding. And I truly think that we should celebrate our wins no matter how small they are. What I advise to you is, let's say you're watching this video and you only have 100 or you only have 1,000. That is okay. You can set the goal of being a millionaire, but start small. What I personally did was I always looked at like the next dollar mark and made that my goal. So when I had $2,000, my goal was 5, and then it was 10. And then it was 20, and then it was 25, and then it was 50. So don't look at the end goal, because that's going to freak you out. I talk about this more in my other video, the concept of both, so I highly recommend you watch that. But what you're going to do is look at just the next the next signpost, right? And the next one, and you're basically taking baby steps. And then when you look back, you're gonna be like, oh, I made 100,000, right? That was my goal all along, but I broke it into small increments. So it wasn't just this huge, overwhelming goal that seems super far-fetched, okay? So I truly want you guys to just tap into this feeling of abundance, to this feeling of wealth. It doesn't matter where you are right now. It doesn't matter if you have $1, if you have 100, if you have 10 million. Just know that someone out in the world would gladly take your spot, would happily take your spot, would perceive your position as so blessed and so rich and so wealthy. So really tune into that, because when we're in that frequency of being grateful and abundant, that is when more blessings come into our life and we're able to multiply and compound them. So that is my video for you guys today. I hope that you enjoyed it. I really have a desire to create more videos on finances and wealth and just growing your net worth, and I want this to be a safe space where we're able to talk about things, whether they're taboo or not, and not feel like, oh, I shouldn't share that because people will get jealous, or I shouldn't share that because we shouldn't talk about our salary. When we're able to talk about these things, it really helps us grow. It helps us up level, and it helps us know our worth. So I want you guys to start having more conversations about wealth, even if it's just in your daily life with the people that you love and trust. Perhaps it's your family, maybe it's your partner. You guys can start having these conversations, because if you're just clueless as to what you have and what, other people have, you really have no idea how you compare or how you can get to that next level. So I want to open up the conversation, and let's definitely talk more down in the comments. Give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye.